Hello and welcome into this ARCA Series Rewind show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. On today's ARCA Rewind, we're looking back at Friday's VizCom 200. 100 laps, 200 miles around the 2-mile Michigan International Speedway in Brooklyn, Michigan. Only one caution flag in this race, and it was there about halfway, lap 45, as the 28 of Brandon McReynolds blew a tire, got into the wall in turn 4, and eventually came to a rest right about the start-finish line. That would be your only caution flag of the day, and it almost changed the complexion of this race. This really was a race between Michael Self and Ty Majeski. Ty Majeski looking for his third straight victory in ARCA. Michael Self looking for his third victory of the season. Remember, he won back 2 in a row, Pensacola and Salem. Michael Self clearly had the best car in this race. Led 85 laps total in this race, while Ty Majeski also led a decent amount of laps in the mid-portion of the race. Self had this thing running away. Majeski and crew chief Paul Andrews looking to change this up and do it on pit strategy because they knew they weren't going to beat the 25 car on pure speed. So, when Michael Self pits at lap number 40 before the Brandon McReynolds caution, so Michael Self pits under green at lap number 40, for fuel because it was roughly a 40 to 45 lap fuel run. You really weren't gonna get this race done in one pit stop unless you were really, really conserving fuel. That is exactly what Ty Majeski did, though. Majeski pitted on the Brandon McReynolds caution at lap number 45, so Michael Self reassumes the lead under that caution, leads the next 45 laps when he pits on lap 90. So Ty Majeski reassumes the lead on lap 91 in full fuel conservation mode. He was running 3 seconds a lap slower than the 25 of Michael Self. Self running as hard as he possibly could in those final 10 laps to try and get to Majeski in case he did have enough fuel to get to the end of the race. We got all the way around to the white flag. Majeski's still holding the lead by about a second over Michael Self. And Majeski runs out of fuel in 3 and 4 on the final lap. Self blows by, gets that third win of the season. Majeski was able to coast it across for a second place finish. That close to his third straight victory for Ty Majeski. He had to do it on fuel strategy, but he was very close to it, to stealing that third victory in a row in ARCA. And you got to give both Ty Majeski and crew chief Paul Andrews kudos for that because that was a brilliant strategy and they almost made it work. Majeski, of course, talking post-race in the media center about how he didn't really know that he could have done that any differently because if he had backed off and saved any more than he had, the 25 would have caught him anyway before the end of the race. So if he had saved that little bit more to get him to the checkered flag, Michael probably would have got him anyway. And then if he hadn't saved as much, if he'd gone harder, he'd have run out earlier. So you're kind of in a lose-lose situation there. There really wasn't anything the 22 could have done. He did as much as he possibly could, and unfortunately second was just where apparently he was meant to fall in the VizCom 200. Brett Holmes, the only other car on the lead lap at the end of this race, he came home in the third position with a solid top 3 finish. Joe Graff Jr., also a solid top 5 finish. He came home in 4th with Tanner Gray rounding out the top 5. Rest of your top 10, another solid run here as well for Travis Braden. He came home in 6th. Not a great run for Christian Eckes, just kind of off all day, was even on pit road at one point with the hood up. Came home 7th, 2 laps down. He does get hurt a bit in the points from this, especially with Michael winning this race. Myatt Snyder stepping into the 20 car for a 1-race deal. Had a really good run going. He was top 3, top 5 car most of the day, and then unfortunately had some issues at the end of the race. He came home 3 laps down in the 8th position. Scott Melton, kudos to that Kimmel Racing team, that number 69 car, coming home with a top 10 finish. He came home 9th, 4 laps down. And CJ McLaughlin rounds out the top 10. Final page 11th through 18th. Riley Herbst had some electrical issues. He was on and off pit road all day. Never really got a chance to do anything in this race. 12th for Riley Herbst from Michigan. Brandon McReynolds, after his accident, he came home in the 14th position. Many laps down, 57 to be exact. So Brandon McReynolds not really getting to show what he could do in this race either. Although that 28 car wasn't, he wasn't going to run for a win. That 28 car, you could tell in practice, it was not up to where the 25 and maybe the 22 were. But I think if he had been able to run the rest of the race, I think Brandon McReynolds at least would have had a top 10 out of him, maybe even a top 5 had things fallen right. But that's your results from the VizCom 200. We do have a winner interview with Michael Self coming up. I'm not sure if that went up before or after this. We're recording it shortly after this, but shortly after recording this. So not sure if we're going to put that up right before this or right after, but it will be linked down below in the description as well. If you want to check that out, hear Michael's thoughts after winning his 3rd race of the season. All right, so let's move on to the point standings. 9 races into the 2019 season. We're almost halfway through the season. Madison this week marks the halfway point of the 2019 season. And Michael Self has extended his lead over Brett Holmes now to 60 points. Travis Braden losing a little bit as well. He is now 100 back there in the 3rd position. Solid days for both Brett Holmes and Travis Braden, but unfortunately when Michael Self wins, you're still going to lose points to him. Christian Eck is taking a hit this week as well. He is now 130 points back there in the 4th position. Joe Graff Jr. staying stationary as well in the 5th position. He is now 170 points off of your leader, Michael Self. And Tanner Gray has actually moved himself into the top 10 in points. Now, in fact, we've had a fairly big shakeup here at the bottom of the top 10. Tim Richmond and Dick Doheny also now in the top 10, which I guess as many races as all of these drivers have run so far this season. Tim Richmond with 6 starts, Dick Doheny with 7, and Tanner Gray with 5. You would think they would eventually move their way into the top 10 because, Chandler Smith, Ty Gibbs, Harrison Burton had originally been there, and they've only got 4 starts apiece. So even with Tim Richmond, Dick Doheny getting the finishes they have been, you would think eventually they would move their way into the top 10. But that is your point standings following Michigan, and I believe that will do it for us on this week's ARCA Rewind. Like I said, Michael Self interview either just went up or is just about to go up, so either way it's linked down below in the description for you to check out if you haven't seen it already. I'm sure it's going to be a great talk with Michael. It's always fun chatting with him, and after a win, it's even better. So we'll have that for you there, and a truck rewind coming up here shortly as well. We've got some interesting stuff to talk about there. If you didn't see the truck race Friday night either, that is. We had an interesting winner in that race, so a name we haven't heard in a long time in Victory Lane, so that was pretty cool to see. So that truck rewind coming up here shortly as well. Xfinity rewind coming up tonight, and then of course our live 250 subscriber Q&A coming up tonight 8 p.m. as well. We tweeted about that yesterday. So if you have any questions, of course you can give them to us during the live Q&A and the live chat. You can reply to the tweet we made yesterday and give some questions that way. Nothing really, aside from the obvious stuff, nothing really off limits in this. You can ask questions to get to know me better. You can ask about future shows coming up on RNN, because we do have a couple things in the works here. You can ask racing-related questions, just really anything that makes sense. There's some obvious stuff that obviously wouldn't get answered, but yeah, there's not too many limits here, so whatever you feel like asking, we'll probably answer it tonight on the live Q&A, so definitely hang around for that. And of course, Cup Rewind coming up tomorrow following that race, and then it should be it, unless I'm forgetting something for the weekend. So and of course, we will be in Madison next weekend with ARCA, giving you coverage from there. There should be more coverage than what we've been doing the last couple weeks at Pocono and Michigan. With the rules with these these bigger tracks, it's hard to do as much as what we do with the short tracks in terms of interviews and stuff like that. So we'll definitely have some more stuff for you coming from Madison this week. But if you haven't done it already, you need to go down below, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. While you're down there, why don't you hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It is much appreciated when you do. So with that, this has been the ARCA Racing Series Rewind Show. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.